I think that they see the writing on the wall. They know that the midterms are going to be brutal for them. And historically, midterms are not good for the party of the president. But I think that with these midterms coming up, voters feel a lot of buyer's remorse. They feel like they've been bamboozled by this administration. Look, everything that Trump said he was going to do on the campaign trail, whether that was bring down prices or be the peace candidate. In fact, he's done the complete opposite of it. Now, starting this war of choice with Iran, which has just caused the already existing affordability crisis to just be exacerbated, and the cost of everything has just continued to rise. And so I think that now the Trump administration knows that they're actually going to be held accountable if we see not just the House flip, but I think there's a chance that we could see the Senate flip as well, which is something.
Speaking Michael Steele's language.
I love when people finally get to where I've been for a year.
I was not there, if you asked me, say 6 months ago, but I really think that this war with Iran has now even further aggravated voters. And so I think that there's a very good chance that we could see both chambers flip. And that means trouble for the Trump administration, because they are going to now face accountability for the first time, which obviously we have not seen them face with Republicans in Congress. I mean, Trump knows that he's been able to have them in the palm of his hand with Speaker Mike Johnson. Trump has even called himself effectively the Speaker of the House, because he knows that they are just completely worthless and not doing anything. And so I think that they're worried, and not just because they think, oh, the Democrats are going to go after us, but there might be something that they're trying to hide, whether that be the alleged corruption that's been going on. We've seen from this administration with all the deals and contracts that have been awarded to Trump family members, or you look at the handling of the Epstein files and their failure to investigate or prosecute a single person in the files, or the murders of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. I think there is a plethora of things that Democrats could go after them for in investigations. And so it makes sense that the White House lawyers are talking to these folks and trying to prepare them for this, because I think that this is going to be their reality when we have a new Congress.
Although it remains to be seen how much they're actually going to cooperate, right? Kurt, you know this better than anyone. We are on an investigative trajectory at this point of White House is simply not cooperating with Congress, especially in the case where the lone source of power for Democrats is the House. There's already, I reported on this a few months ago, there's already an expectation that the White House counsel's office is going to stonewall, not agree to any of the subpoenas, and let things play out as they are. And that's why you've seen Democrats kind of craft this strategy to go after some of the private companies and corporations and outside entities that have been engaging with the White House, putting them on notice up until this point. What do you anticipate happening in that vein? And how if you were advising Democrats on this, what does the accountability agenda look like?
Well, one, if I were Democrats, I would form a select committee just to investigate all the financial dealings involving the first family, government contracts, no bid contracts being handed out. If you follow the money, that's where you're going to find vulnerability. That's number one. Number two, Congress needs to take a real look at actually increasing their ability to enforce their subpoenas, enforce their ability to get accountability. Right now, we have a dynamic, and this is the flaw in our checks and balance system, where the executive branch could say, I'm not going to cooperate with you. Congress will hold you in contempt. Guess who enforces contempt? The Justice Department, who's probably not going to prosecute their current sitting administration. So you need to look at other avenues, whether it's increasing your ability to levy fines for every day that you don't cooperate with a subpoena, whether it's invoking the centuries-old inherent contempt, instructing the sergeant of arms to say, go arrest that person, bring them before us. There are many levers that they can use. They just got to show a willingness to actually deploy them. And what they're going to have to do is give their congressional committees, and we talked about this last time I was here, give them the authority, the autonomy, the staff, the manpower, the financial resources to do these investigations. There are so much widespread targets across every department, across every agency, from DHS to DOD to the State Department to the Financial Services Department. Following the money, forensic accounting, it is tedious. There are hundreds of thousands of documents you're going to have to get your hands on. It's going to take some time. Democrats have got to manage expectations, particularly with their base. You're not going to, on day one, get anyone before your committee. You're not on day one going to be able to get people to resign. You're not on day one going to get a smoking gun document that sends someone running. It's going to take time. Manage those expectations.
I agree with all of that, and I particularly like the part where you arrest people. I love that part, because I've always said from day one that Congress has the power, Alicia's looking at me, but that's the legitimate power of the Congress, to send U.S. Marshals out to pick your ass up and bring you in. That's it. And all you need is one. You do it one time. one time and you send the message, oh, you thought we were playing? You thought that we were just going to come in here, you're just going to sit there down on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and act stupid and we're not going to respond? Oh, hell no. That's not how this is going to go. That's the attitude they're going to have to bring. Everything you just said is correct.
FAFO.
FAF, absolutely. Sarah, that's why, as the Washington Post is reporting, the White House lawyers are getting into deep prep. Now, they're pulling out everything. They're pulling out all the stops. This roughly 30-minute briefing has included a PowerPoint presentation about how congressional oversight works. Okay, first off, you don't know how that works, and that explains a lot, doesn't it, Alicia? You can see how they're already behaving, right? Their behavior tells you they don't have respect for how the system works. And best practices for handling. According to the two people who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the matter of policy. Okay. Staff from the counsel's office have encouraged political appointees to be careful about what they put in writing and provided guidance on how to respond to congressional inquiries in a timely manner. Oh, now they want to do it the polite and right way. That's my point. Signals have already been set from what the Democrats have already started to fashion. The success, as I mentioned, the 35 special elections they won. You can see the writing on the wall. The momentum is there. They've now got the American people a lot more behind them, the Democrats, than they are behind Republicans. So the White House, smart people inside are saying, okay, everybody come in the room, let's settle down. You've been in that space. I don't know if you ever had one of those settle down moments when you were there during the first term. But give us a sense of what that's really like when the staff has kind of been like doing the footloose on a whole nother level, and the lawyers come in, and the accountability patrol comes in and go, okay, everybody, let's have a conversation.
Yeah, I think that for a long time that this second administration, Trump 2.0, has thought that they could operate however they wanted to because they felt like they were given this referendum, that they were voted in and that they were able to do whatever they wanted because the American people put him back in office despite all of his previous controversies and everything else. And so they have not had to operate really within the guidelines, and they've been able to blur those lines, like we were talking about with the DOJ, and the DOJ not necessarily being independent as it once was in previous administrations. And so they've been able to operate outside of those guidelines. But if there is a Democratic Congress, and particularly if there's both chambers, that could really spell trouble for them. And so I have to imagine that these White House lawyers, at that 30-minute briefing, they are probably advising people to use the phrases, I don't recall, and I plead the fifth, because I think that's some of the best advice that they could give some of these folks, considering the amount of things that Democrats have the ability to look into. I mean, if there is an accountability agenda, I was saying that you could look into the Epstein files. You could look into ICE. You could look into the corruption happening with the first family. There's so much that they could go after them for. But I do think that we've seen with Republicans that they are not cooperating with subpoenas. We saw this with the January 6th investigation with Steve Bannon being held in contempt. And so I think that there will be some loyalists who will refuse to cooperate. And I have to imagine that that is also part of the briefing that they're talking about, that they're looking for loopholes of how they cannot cooperate and they can get away with it. And the thing is, though, that even when Trump leaves office, that doesn't mean that accountability is over. There still is a real possibility that he could face, and all the other Trump administration officials could face accountability after the fact, too. The statute of limitations will not expire once he leaves office. And so they can only get away with it for so long.